Saturday night. Shabbat is over for most people. About 300 family weeks away. Some. Let us know if you're in Facebook, Twitter, Rumble, X. Yeah. I don't think I said what's left of the so okay. Well, part of what we're going to talk about is out there. Let me know. Myself, well, but I tried to take the time. Uh, one thing I wanted to talk about, but I didn't talk about it, is somebody what I'm going to talk about is this whole homelessness issue across the country. So many homeless, many of them refuse to go into Chris. He's here too.
Hello, Chris. How are you?
Here as well. I brought my glasses.
No, I'm good. Well, I guess some of the problems that I personally ran into in the shelters was just
First start off with the problems you had without me, and then what was the problem we had together.
all the problems I had before you.
Before me, without a spouse,
Well,
without kids.
I lived in New York State, and there was only one shelter in all of New York State, which was in the
All of New York State, like county area,
Steuben County.
big county, the Finger Lakes region.
Yeah, Steuben County, Finger Lakes region. There was just one shelter, and it was for battered women, and you had to have a police report, an order of protection against your abuser. That's the only shelter there was. Well, before Eric, I was a victim of domestic violence, and I was homeless, so I went to the shelter in Bath, and they put an order of protection against my son, which is nothing but a piece of paper, basically they love to violate it, and they do whoever they wanted. And that was my experience with that one. And then I've had a few experiences in Rochester, uh, New York, where I went into shelters with my kids. I had CPS called on me because I went to the shelter and obeyed what they said to do. And there was black mold in the shelters up there. Always being harassed about one thing or another. You couldn't have your pets, you couldn't have friends, you couldn't have a cell phone, you couldn't talk to nobody, you had to work their program. You had to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning. You had to have your kids ready by 6 o'clock, out the door by 7. Doesn't matter if it's snowing, raining, whatever. They didn't care. They wanted you out looking for a job, housing, and it was always, oh, we'll help you with housing if you can find it. Well, all the housing that you can find is basically scrum board housing. So my experiences with homeless shelters, whether it been battered women's or women's shelters, have not been pleasant like myself or with
No, not a good time. And some of the problems I've had.
there was one other experience when we were together. Well, we weren't married per se yet. We were together as a couple, and we lived in Syracuse, New York. And I was pregnant with my daughter at the time. And my husband, well, unfortunately, had to go to jail for unpaid child support issues.
No, it was actually that local charge issue.
Well, something. He had to go to jail. Well, there was a shelter called Dorothy Day. Dorothy Day was for women who were pregnant. Well, a minister in town helped me to get in there for 3, 4 days until I was able to go home, which my hometown is Hornell, New York. Well, I went into the shelter and they asked if I was pregnant. I told them yes. And they persisted that I was going to have an abortion. They were very happy to have an abortion, but an order of protection against Eric, to stay in the shelter, not to go back to Portland. I told them, I said, look, I'm only here for 3, 4 days until I can get the bus ticket. I'm going back to Portland. I'll believe in abortion. And my husband, at the time, who was my boyfriend I said it's not abusive.
I think at that time it was finally married.
No, this was before we were married. When we were sleeping on the park bench at Syracuse.
Yeah. Okay. But before that,
It was like
before
3 months
before you came
before
to
we were
Syracuse,
married.
I want to bring this up. One, down in Steuben County, the Finger Lakes area, there are 0 men's
Or family.
or family shelters. They barely have a DD shelter like one per county.
The only one that I know of.
There was one in
all of
Allegheny County as well.
No, there isn't. For all of Steuben County and Allegheny County, there's one shelter.
Well, that was my understanding. Allegheny County has one of their.
No.
I'm a man. They don't tell us all that.
They don't
Anyway.
tell them about that because they're supposed to protect the women from their abusers, which they do not do that.
Okay, and just so people know, Steuben County, yes, the county seat is Bath, New York. Cornell, New York is kind of a small town. But Warning, and then Warning Glass, which is a bigger city, is still part of the county. Warning Painted Post, which is a very large, which is a metropolitan area of a decent size. I mean, it's not good, like Dallas, Fort Worth, or some major, super major cities, not big as Rochester or Buffalo, but it is, well, for example, you heard of Jamestown, New York, probably not
Corning
equivalent to
is
Jamestown.
still, well, part of Corning is still considered Steuben County. They don't have a shelter.
But Corning is literally neighbors with Elmira, New York, which has the famous Elmira Correctional Institute.
Which they do have a domestic violence shelter. I looked it up with. And all my.
But one of the things I wanted to get into was, as far as New York goes, start off with right now, is that in Syracuse, New York, almost
I think Chris was saying something.
no, honey, that's on the radio.
No.
So they said that's all I did. Yeah, it was having a good time and interference on my mic. So much. If I pull the camera a little closer, yeah. But hopefully that helps. Maybe pick it up. Got banners on it and everything, so that might be where some of the background noise comes in. Almost probably in an RV. Actually turn it all the way the other way, put it on low. Pushing some of that in Syracuse, New York, as a veteran, the only shelter they had was for single men was the rescue mission. Now, the reason I wanted to speak to the rescue mission is even though they had separate campuses, they had at different places. They had a kitchen in one area, a general assistance area in a different location, and then they also had kitchen, men's shelter, and then almost like a welfare office type area as well. And then also a little a building that they use for clothing and stuff. Now there was some, if you were drug, they did have some halfway houses as well for those that are drug and alcohol rehab. I know there's one friend, YouTube subscriber now, that had stayed in that, and he's still in that area, and he's done really well for himself. He's also a fellow veteran. I won't say his name unless he's giving that permission. But the rescue mission, and this was a problem that I saw with other rescue missions throughout the country. And the reason I'm talking about this and wanted to talk this subject with my wife here is because there was recently announced, it's been a couple of weeks. I believe it's called Grants Pass versus Johnson at the Supreme Court. And it's regarding a camping and parks ban. And what is considered camping, one blanket on, sitting on a bench and nodding your head off in the middle of the day, or setting up a full-blown campsite, the Supreme Court is arguing all those merits, trying to figure that one out. If it, basically camping on public lands. Hopefully they'll come to the right decision, and hopefully while it's all under review, maybe they'll find my video here and maybe not, maybe share. But anyways, one of the things that, back to what I was saying, is the rescue missions have there's the rescue mission and then there's the gospel rescue mission. And the rescue mission without the gospel is a pretty strict, hardcore. You can only come in at certain times. It's first come, first serve for a bed. If you're returning for a bed, you might can get a little bit of a priority. But you can only stay generally 14 days out of 30. So unless you're in a special program or have money coming to them. One of the things I personally witnessed that generally the ones that have the money, getting the welfare to help pay for the mission rent, were usually those that were fresh out of incarceration, such as those that are on predator lists. Let's put it that way. Those of you who know, you know. Basically, the government's paying for them to have a bed, but those that are veterans and are just trying to do better for their lives, just trying to do something to come up, maybe ending up in a city like Syracuse, New York, to try to find work and move up, you got 2 weeks to find a job. And if you've been unemployed for a while, as in my case I had been, even though I had a commercial driver's license, it still took me a little bit to find a job. And I barely got the job that I did end up getting only because on my resume was my amateur radio license, KD7LTN, and that I knew radios, and they had a problem with their company radio at the concrete plant. That's the only reason I got that job compared to anybody else. They hired me and one other person the same day. But anyways, and it was a union job, and that's a whole other ball of beeswax, unions. But hopefully that's changing things now. Now thanks to what's been going on with Democrats versus Republicans and what they're doing, and the union person, those that are in the union are starting to buck against the elite administrators in the union, and what they, not everything they say goes anymore. Okay, so I did see that it's much better. So I'm moving the lid and turning the fan down. Though. Speaking of which, that fan's off. I know it don't make no noise. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going for it. Fun thing about RVs, especially we got an old roof AC that don't work so well. We got 2 window units on a lower setting, off the generator, going to a box fan, to the front windows, and then a box fan to a tower fan to help try to shove it from one end to the other.
That's what you were saying about being homeless. I thought that was whole.
Yeah, the homeless in the shelters. Now the gospel rescue missions. I have stayed, and I want to bring up the reason Grants Pass one is because I have stayed in the men's side of the gospel rescue mission in Grants Pass, Oregon, in the past. In fact, at the time I stayed there, they had a mascot of the dog that was named Samson, who was a big Newfoundland, that he knew the house rule of no hats indoors, and he let you know if you're wearing a hat inside. He did not like it. He wasn't mean, he wasn't aggressive, and only a couple could walk him. He was very particular. Nice dog. As long as you weren't wearing a hat, he was friendly with you. He was okay. But that was when I actually was on crutches and had a cast around my left ankle. But the reason I'm and the reason I'm and the gospel rescue missions, well, the regular mission, regular rescue mission, I can say one is basically pay to play to be able to stay there longer than 14 days. Then there's also time restrictions. And I had an old laptop that was, even though I had a locker with a combination lock that they issued me, I had a laptop stolen out of that locker. Which I think, which could be one of the places where my identity theft issues have came from that. Because of all the stuff that was stored on that hard drive. I mean, it wouldn't boot up, but doesn't mean you can't recover files. Anyways, the gospel rescue missions are very similar. And yes, I'm a minister. Yes, I want people to be saved, but I don't want to. But you don't want to force it down people's throats. And that's one of the things about the gospel rescue missions. They very much. It's very much God oriented, Christian oriented. You have to be in at a certain time to eat. I mean, you can be a little late for dinner, but usually before dinner they have a chapel service. During that you have to be there for the chapel service unless you have a job. If you don't have a job and you don't show up for the chapel service, you don't have a bed. And if there's soup, and if it's an area that is, which is pretty much anywhere in the country now, if you're not there by that certain amount of time, and it's first come, first serve for beds, you check in, and it goes on a list, and then basically they stop accepting once they only have 30 beds. That 31st person, basically, you can't even sit through the chapel service and eat the dinner afterwards. In many cases, some places will allow them to at least eat dinner, but generally, and then after dinner, they're out the door. Even though the beds are upstairs, or generally upstairs of the chapel area / main area. And then you're also assigned to chores for them. And then also in a lot of facilities, besides being assigned to do their chores on their schedule that they want, you might get away with not having to do them if you have a job. But if you're trying to actively job search and you know that certain jobs you need to be there, I mean, even if it's even if it's day labor, you got to be there bright and shiny in the morning. Be one of the first ones in the door to try and get a position. Well, that don't always work out. Then you have chores you have to do that you can't do until everybody's up and out of the beds. And then it's do the chore, get out, and be gone. Rain, shine, sleet, snow, thunderstorm, hurricane, tornado. They don't care. You cannot be in the building. That's the case with most of the shelters, gospel or not. Is their policy is no matter the weather, even if you are a 100% disabled veteran in a wheelchair, you cannot be there in the daytime unless you're staff.
Well, that reminded me.
Or in the discipleship program, which is basically part of the staff. And I know for a fact that the gospel, unless they've changed buildings, which they probably haven't, in Grants Pass, Oregon, they didn't have many beds in the men's facility, and they had even fewer beds in the women's building, which was next door.
One thing that Eric got talking about the past and stuff, it reminded me of something. Back when my son was about, I want to say a year and a half, me and my husband my second husband, who was, whoa, he was a piece of work. God rest his soul. Uh, we decided that we were trying to work it out for the sake of our son, which wasn't his. He knew he wasn't his, but we were just, I guess, stupid. Um, that was also back when I was alcohol and drug addicted. Uh, so, but anyways, me and him wound up in the shelter. It was not Syracuse or Elmira. It was Horseheads. And we wound up in the shelter 'cause we wound up homeless. And then we wound up in Olean in the shelter. And it was supposed to be, quote unquote, family oriented. Well, yeah, it was far from family oriented. The thing of it was me and my second husband were legally married. We had the paperwork to prove it, and they still separated us. Women slept on one side with their children, and men slept on the other side. And pretty much we were only allowed to see each other outside the shelter. We were not allowed to be anywhere near each other in the shelter or around each other or in the shelter. And it had nothing to do with domestic violence or anything. That was just the rules. Well, Bobby had about enough of it, and he took it out on me and wound up getting arrested. Well, because he got arrested, we got thrown out in a blizzard in Olean where I didn't know nobody. So I called the DV shelter, and me and Brandon, which is my son, we went into the DV shelter in Olean. Well, that was no better either. They basically threw us out within 24 hours because my brother-in-law decided to come and see us. So it's like all these shelters are there to protect women from their abusers or to shelter women and children from the storm, but yet they throw us out. And it's not fair. And that's when I decided, because I've had more than one marriage, I've had more than one child. A lot of people sit there and say, "Oh, you only have your daughter." No, I have more than one child. I've had more than one marriage,
I
and
knew we were talking about what you're talking about.
and I've
Yeah.
lived a real hard life. 90% of my life I've been homeless, and I can tell you from experience, the reason why people choose to be homeless is because they don't want to lose everything they have. Because once you go into a shelter, they think you're their property. It's run by the government, so therefore you're under a microscope.
Well, I wanted to. You brought up your ex and I had a family shelter, and I wanted to bring up my ex-wife. This was after my son was born. We were legally married, and we were in Medford, Oregon. Medford, Oregon at least had a couple of different shelters, and a couple of them were family shelters. And one of and well, while she was pregnant, we couldn't stay in the same shelter. Actually, they had one family shelter, which, yeah, she was at a Salvation Army shelter for herself. I was at the Gospel Rescue Mission, and the one that we were in together as a family was through St. Vincent de Paul. Here's St. Vincent de Paul's rules. Now, mind you, I was working a job as a security officer and was also trying to do customer service. I was basically trying to work two jobs. I had an issue with my license where I had to straight for a few no seatbelt tickets that I had to pay off to get my license turned back on at the time, and had to replace the vehicle. That's part of what brought us into Medford, is the vehicle that the rag joint went out on. If you know, if you know, you know. But that's not part of the story. Anyways, we were staying at this shelter. It's a family shelter, and their rules were, whether you're working or not, if you're working Basically, they want to take your whole paycheck, all of it, 100%, and stick it in their safe for safekeeping. And if you're getting welfare, such as food stamps, they would take a minimum of 30% of your food stamps to help pay for the grocery costs to operate the facility. Well, how are you supposed to survive and actually improve your life and get out on your own, especially with, in our case, at the time, mine and my ex-wife's case, a newborn? And then, and then the shelter, and to kind of, bring it all full circle with shelters, me and Peggy together, since we've been married and our daughter was born, and after she was born in Syracuse, we ended up in Rochester, New York. Now, these are stories we can share together because these are some of the shelters we've been in together, which I will say
Don't forget about us being homeless out on the street, and then told me the first mistake was getting pregnant.
My second pregnant was marrying me by a Franciscan nun at a Irish Catholic church in North Syracuse, New York, or Mattydale, New York, actually. So that information you can find out what facility it is. I don't have to say a specific name. In fact, I forget which. It wasn't. It might have been St. Patrick Catholic. But anyways, it was a Franciscan nun that was in charge of the benefits program, benefits side of their outreach. Anyways, we were in Rochester, New York.
A can of SpaghettiOs.
We went to Rochester, New York, because one of Peggy's friends said, "Oh, we could come stay with them to get on our feet." We loaded for bear, get all the way there. Syracuse to Rochester is not an easy drive on the tollway, especially when you have all of your belongings basically wrapped inside of a bunch of bags and then inside of one super clear painter's tarp type of deal on the roof of a 95 Geo Tracker, aka the Suzuki Samurais.
No, that was after her.
No, that was the Jeep. That was after she was born, going from the motel in Syracuse to Rochester. Oh, and let me go prior to that, between the shelters and the trip and the move to Rochester.
Don't forget about the time we spent out on
the street. We reached out to a program. Now, granted, mind you, before we moved to Rochester, just before we moved to Rochester, I was no longer employed in Syracuse driving a concrete mixer because when Hurricane Sandy rolled in and was expected to turn towards Syracuse, I refused to haul a very liquid concrete load to a power substation, an electrical substation. And everything I had as both a weather spotter and a ham radio operator listening to the National Weather Service, nothing of the data I had never changed. Now, granted, they pulled up what the weather data said from Weather Underground to try and nail me and get me out of that union job and basically fire me. But I refuse to do that because I refuse to be in a very tall vehicle underneath a power substation with a hurricane coming through. I'm sorry. It doesn't make much sense. I don't care who you are for safety. I wanted to be able to go home to my wife and brand new daughter. Okay. Well, but when I had that position and was making that union money, $18 an hour in New York State, reached out to a veteran program through the hotline. That national, not the suicide, not the veteran national suicide hotline, just the national helpline, VA national helpline as it's called. And they put me in contact with an organization that I guess was just out of Connecticut, is that? Maryland, Massachusetts, basically right across from New York City and whatever.
That
one of those
was
states.
okay. Well,
The
you
gentleman
need to
came
back
out.
up.
The
You
gentleman
need to
came
back
out.
up so that way they can get the whole page.
Well, in Syracuse, New York, to get an apartment, you had to pay first, last, and security deposit altogether, which under New York state law is illegal. But good luck with that with the slumlords that were following the law.
Yeah, but don't forget about the part where, well, I was pregnant with her. We were homeless. We slept out of park beds.
No, I'm not going into that. I'm not going into that. I'm going into homelessness and programs that are supposed to be there to help with homelessness. I'm not going into the welfare in Onondaga County and how my wife, 8 months pregnant with an ultrasound, was just fat.
Yep.
Okay, and the ultrasound was less than 48 hours old. Was apparently an exact due date of when our daughter was born.
June 9th.
Yeah, and it was April 8th that the ultrasound was done. I remember. Anyways,
And I had a bladder
this
infection.
gentleman who came out from the
My
program,
bladder.
now granted, mind you, I am working a union job. We can barely afford the weekly price on one of the cheapest motels in Syracuse, New York.
Yep.
The State Fair Motel, right next between a garbage company.
And a truck stop. Oh, I love that
I mean,
truck stop.
the ones that go and pick up the garbage cans and come back with stinky cans and stinky trucks, and a little mom and pop truck stop. Not too far from what's now called Destiny Mall, which used to be called Carousel Mall. And if you're watching on my YouTube channel and have seen that I posted a video when my daughter was born of going for a little ride on the carousel. That was recently put public.
So are you still here, Chris, or did we lose you?
Yeah, we've been going for 40 minutes now. But anyways, this person comes out and goes, "Oh, you must either be doing drugs or alcohol, to not be able to afford to get into a place on your own, and that's why you're reaching out to it." Basically, it's attitude. This whole attitude of how we were homeless, why we were homeless, and having a hard time finding a place was not because rent was so high. Was because we must be doing illegal garbage, we must be drug addicts, alcoholics, and basically look at us like we were pieces of garbage. I'll also go into another incident when we were dating and together, but here in Texas, in Dallas, actually Richardson, Texas. Yeah, Chris is still here. He's on YouTube now. In Richardson, Texas. Oh, he's in both. Okay. And you should have the monkey wrench in both too, Chris. If I did it all right.
Yeah, boot the trolls.
What trolls? I want trolls right now. Right now, I want trolls.
Okay, bring them on. You're a troll.
But anyways,
we got some goats for you.
Anyway, so that was the attitude we got there. But back to before Ursel, when we were dating, we were together. We come down to Texas because her grandmother had passed away, and she was pretty much the sole heir. But I won't go into that issue too much. But we went into a facility that does food bank and whatnot in Richardson, Texas. In fact, I could probably drive back there today because I spent so much time in that city to begin with. It was around the corner from the Waffle House that I used to work at. And we were told that basically because we were white, we didn't need help. Not looking at our income or any other reason, you're white, you don't need help. By an old white lady. Okay, and that was what, around 2010? Yeah, 2010.
Yeah.
That was summer of 2010.
Yeah, his daddy died in 2009.
And your grandmother passed away in like January of 2010, and we were notified in April and March and headed down and found the way down here. Anyways,
Daddy died in
But
2009.
the overall gist of all this, and the reason why we're going through our personal experiences. Oh, a lot. Well, yeah. Well, no, I made some good friends at Waffle House, all because of the drama that was started by the drama keepers. They wanted to start drama, create drama, and there was a fellow veteran, and we ended up becoming really good friends and roommates and coworkers at one point. It all started because people started drama. So some good things can happen at an awful waffle.
I love Waffle House.
Ooh, Patty Melts. Patty Melts. Patty Melts on race.
Okay, back to our homeless situation
But
and the
anyways,
VA.
well, no, we didn't get into the VA stuff. We're not even touching the VA stuff.
I
It's
want
supposed
to
to be.
get into the VA stuff.
That's a part 2 thing that I got to get into on another day. I still need to do a video on that. And that one will have the appropriate background. That is not part of the
I
Cowboy
thought you
Journal.
wanted to talk
That's
about
not part
life.
of this podcast. This podcast is about the homelessness, how we're treating the homeless. Granted, yes, there are many people that are illegal. Well, besides, I'm not talking about illegal aliens. I'm talking about like illegal illicit drugs, alcohol, mental health problems.
Oh yeah.
There are many that have kind of really stuck themselves in the situation. There are also a huge many that it's become the best way for them to live because rent's too high. They don't want to go and seek out government services because when you go seek out government services from welfare, from any agency, you literally have to, before they even give you the opportunity for a place to stay, you got to jump through 30 hoops. And then it feels like they got to know exactly what color your urine is and what color your feces is. And how many times a day you urinate, you excrement, how many times, and what they give you to eat is, well, literally in New York State, for as a couple with no income, we were given temporarily a motel voucher. This is in the county that didn't have a shelter, really, in Steuben County. They literally gave us the motel voucher every weekday, but you had to go back in the next morning to get your new voucher and wait all day for it. And $7.42 voucher for the Tops grocery store that was basically right by the motel. And that was to feed the 2 of us every day.
$7.
It was like $3.18 per person. So I'm a little off. I'm a couple cents off. I'm not more than 50 cents off, trust me. $7 and change, which literally got us the little dollar Stouffer's Banquet microwavable meal, one apiece, maybe a cheap soda pop, and a small bag of chips or something. And the motel was supposed to have a breakfast, but if you were staying, had the free continental breakfast, there's nothing but donuts.
But if you were welfare, you weren't allowed to
donuts
have
and toast. But if you were on welfare, if welfare paid for you to be there, you were not allowed to use it.
or the Wi-Fi.
Oh, they didn't want you using the Wi-Fi if you were there on a welfare voucher.
Oh, and good luck using the phone to call a landlord. You better have a cell phone.
Yeah, to try to, or landlords or job search.
Yeah.
And you were expected to basically do all the landlord job search at night after you spent all day down in welfare where the cell phones didn't work. It was in the basement of the county building.
Although I can't say one thing.
And hopefully those that are in the 1A community, like auditing Erie County, Long Island audit, I know there's auditing Steuben County, or there's some people are auditing. There's some people that are down there in that area. Go check out the Steuben County building. Good luck getting in because of the metal detectors and all that garbage. But getting down into that basement. It's very, there's a lobby there, and basically good luck getting a cell signal out. I mean, it did improve towards the end. Last time we were there, but not by much. I mean, literally went from no bars to one bar, and yeah,
Well, there is some good things that happened during the time that I lived in Bath.
sit back a little, honey. It's a
There,
little too far forward. They're seeing the back of your neck.
there was this woman. Her name was Lois Coulter, and she wanted to start this ministry called Shepherd's Ministry. Her and her husband David were real cool people, and her husband worked at the Phillips Light Company over in Bath. Unfortunately, he died, but they never got to do it. But their dream and hope was to build a family shelter. And she helped me so much when I was pregnant with my son. And then when me and Eric got together, she helped me a lot too. And there was a lot of good that came out of it. Like I met Letty, I've met a lot of people throughout the years. If it wasn't for me being homeless in New Jersey, I went and met my friends, Charlie and Hope and Lloyd. So there's good times and there's bad times.
Yeah, and being homeless, but the thing is that gets me.
And there's good
Everybody
programs, so there's
pushes.
bad programs. There was one program that I went through that was really awesome, and it was for women. And I got into an apartment. They kept their word. They helped me every step of the way. They were helping me to get my son back. And I'll be honest, I was the one that screwed it up by choosing drugs and alcohol. But there are some decent. Don't get me wrong; it's not all bad. Don't you know?
Yeah, there are some
Our,
decent programs to
don't
help people out there.
don't think our story is all bad. There is a lot of good that came out of it.
But the
It's just some of the programs are just outright horrible, and some of them are really good as long as you actually work the program and you're serious about working that program.
certain programs that are workable. That's the problem. Is the workable ones that are truly workable that don't keep you down are few and far between. There were some other issues that we were starting to discuss with Rochester. I started to bring that up.
Oh, you mean when we went to go live with Letitia, or T as I love to
Well,
call her?
Let me
And she
leave the
kicked
name out
us,
of it. We
and
leave
she
the names
kicked us
out of
out over Tiffany? Yeah. Bunch of
it. But
good
we ended up
workers.
staying in a family shelter, and the Salvation Army family shelter there that they kicked us out because we complained about fire code violations.
Oh, don't forget about the black mold in the office. They expected us to clean the bathrooms with black mold. Um, our
We haven't met you in person, Chris, yet, so we can't say it's good or bad.
let's see. There was black mold in the office. There was
There were
fire
exposed
hazard.
electrical outlets with no covers on them with exposed wiring.
Oh, they could just walk in your room whenever they felt like it.
Black mold in the
Oh,
community
and then
bathroom.
right before everybody walked on eggshells because they were so scared of me. Don't forget that one.
But basically we got kicked out because we complained about fire code violations and they didn't even want to, even though we were legally married with a child, they didn't even want to let us stay there, but they had no problem letting unmarried couples with children stay there in the family shelter. Not a big deal.
And right before we left, I went out to go take a shower, and everything was stripped. I asked what was going on. They told me we had to redo all our laundry because somebody brought bed bugs into the facility. Well, how is that my problem? And why do I have to redo my laundry?
Yeah.
Remember that one?
So
Oh, and they were scared of me there. They were in fear of their life.
no, only the staff was in fear of being found out. Pretty much anybody that heard your story of everything you've been through was inspired by you.
Yeah, I had
There's a lot of
African
people that
American
were
woman
inspired.
came over
Staff.
and and she was staff. She comes over to me and she goes, "Boy, I thought my life was hard. I was having a bad day because I was talking to a woman outside one day about her life and her trauma, and I told her my story about my trauma and about my life and about breast cancer, being a survivor of domestic violence, things of that nature. And they, nine, some of the staff thought that I was aspiring and strong, and the other staff was afraid of me because they saw me get angry.
And then the housing, the welfare, and and through all these times that we've gone through welfare to try to get housing, and we did jump through their hoops, get the vouchers, get the calls through. We finally can go out and do the research of finding a place that would suit our family.
They stole it.
They would turn around and give it to another family.
We'll figure this one out. The last time we went to welfare, after our daughter got taken, and I got drunk at the bar for 24 hours, and that was the last time I had a drink, was in 2016. Well,
All because we didn't check into their motel when they said we should check into it fast enough. Because
Well,
were
we
living out
wound
of our
up-
van.
we wound up moving back to where else? Back to my hometown. Well, we found a place to live after we got our daughter back. They didn't want us to live there. No. They must have set us up for failure. They had to. How does a family of three need a 4-bedroom apartment?
If you want to call it 4 bedrooms.
Yeah, it was 4 bedrooms.
Yeah, there was a family of
And-
7 that would have fit the bill better for that property.
Yeah, it was a 4-bedroom, and 2 of the bedrooms we turned into offices.
Because there's just too much
And,
space.
I mean, like, it was ridiculous how much space as we had. And I mean, like, they literally set us up for failure. And then when we
And
did
we're
not
mad when we didn't.
fail, we did not fail. And I didn't refuse to go back to mental health or drug and alcohol. I went there proudly at the Steuben County Mental Health. Oh, my word. Steuben
Yeah,
County
you've
Mental
done the classes
Health.
often enough.
They knew exactly who I
You could
was.
teach
I
them.
walked in there and they're like, "Oh God, you're packing it. We should have locked the door." But I went to the classes. I did everything they wanted me to do. They set us up for failure. They started taking classes and all this other stuff. And even the social workers that were coming in, child preventative, Tom Butcher, which was part of
Beaker, you
Parent
pronounce it Beaker, not Butcher.
Beaker.
Or Better. But
Well, anyways, when they came
he
into
didn't
the
like the
house,
Butcher.
as they came into the house, they saw the house was always clean, Ursula was always taken care of, and that they're trying to figure out why they're there because there was nothing wrong. It was the system that was broken. 90% of homeless people out here, I've knew
The
over the
systems
years.
failed them. But that
Our personal experiences and people that I have met and knew over the years, the system has failed. Whether it's lost of paperwork, the systems mess up, the VAs mess up, or whatever, it
Yes.
goes right back to the failure. High rent, whatever.
Peggy,
Well,
for example, I want
they
to
get they get so tired of being screwed around by the system. They go into drugs and alcohol. Some of them have mental health issues. Okay. Like I do.
With their stuff.
I do. I have mental health issues. I have PTSD. I have a lot of mental health issues. I used to be real bad, trust me, real bad. And I used to self-medicate. So now when I meet people like General, may he rest in peace, I never looked down on him because the VA failed him. The system failed him. And they failed a lot of other people.
And I wanted to get into one example of that we
The system failed us. That's why we're full-time RVers now. They've took our kids from us. They've made us look completely freaking crazy. And after they've done all that, they put us in housing that had bed bugs, cockroaches, black mold, floors falling in, ceilings collapsing. Well,
Well, don't forget the neighbor's washer overflowing
oh
under your head
yeah,
and giving you a
that was
shower
fun.
in the dining room.
No, that was a sink. That was the
That
kitchen
was,
sink.
that was the bathroom tub.
No.
That's the washer and over the bed.
No, that was the kitchen sink that went down through my light fixture on Thanksgiving Day. No, the bathroom thing. The kids overfilled the tubs supposedly, but the kids got taken.
No, that was
upstairs.
when you're in your little recliner.
And I was sitting there, and I was getting a shower. You couldn't even sit out of the toilet to do your business without getting a shower and smelling like apple freshness from their washer.
The washer machine looked leaking or whatever. When it was raining, it was leaking.
Yeah, it was
And
apple
that was-
freshness.
And here's the fun part: there was actually a ceiling over the toilet.
Yep.
There was a secondary ceiling over the toilet that you would get rained on because it would drip off and basically hit you right in the kneecap.
You basically need an umbrella to do your business.
You need an umbrella just to walk through that apartment because you never know what was going to overflow next from the upstairs neighbors.
Yeah, because it was always, oh, well, the kids did it. The kids did it. Well, how can the kids do it when the kids are in foster care?
Or a daycare or whatever. But but back to some of the system errors. Hey, Smooth Keys, good to see you here.
Who's smooth?
He was someone off of Large Channel, piano player,
Oh.
blind piano player.
Oh.
I hope I got that description correct, Smooth Keys. Please don't be offended. My wife was just asking. But anyway, I'm not,
Well, if you
But
are
anyway,
a piano
one of the things
player,
with-
I would love to
what
hear
we've
you
been-
play
This is a
sometime.
recap. We've been talking about all the issues we've had with homeless shelters, aka the rescue missions and other programs and why and what we've experienced that causes people to not want to go to them. And like I said, and because of Grants Pass versus Johnson for the Supreme Court issue. Another thing I wanted to bring up was the fact that we witnessed while we were in Rochester from 2013 to 2016 and this is when they had homeless encampments. They had homeless encampments initially at one park, which was more of a veterans park there in Rochester. Then they basically kicked them out from there to underneath the Susan B. Anthony Bridge there in Rochester. And then falsely told them that if they came to a certain place on a certain day, they would help them find housing only to go out and bulldoze the
No,
encampments.
you're wrong. It was, they went down into the encampments and they told them, because it was December, it was a cold day, it was almost Christmas. They told all of them
No, it wasn't
as
Christmas.
a
It was before
Christmas
Thanksgiving. It was
present.
before October. It was like
Yeah.
late September.
Well, it was like a Christmas present or some kind of thing where they could all go get warm in a
it was
hotel.
just before the winter hit,
Yeah, they could all get warm in a hotel,
and they would help them with the
and
vouchers.
that they would let them all get a 30-day voucher for the
But
hotel.
to get the vouchers, they had to come show up at a certain address at a
Yeah,
certain
they
time.
had to show up at City
And a
Hall.
lot of them left their stuff
At
behind in their
11
tents,
o'clock.
only to have it all literally bulldozed, backhoed, and put into dumpsters and hauled off.
They were
Their
also
wallets, their
supposed to show
ID,
up
their
there
IDs,
at
their
10
paperwork.
o'clock, 10 or 11 o'clock at City Hall to get their 30-day voucher to go into the hotel for 30 days.
And another thing,
After the 30 days, they were promised free housing, especially the veterans,
I wanna go-
because the veterans, it was through a veteran program. Well, they all went, except for 10 veterans. They were smarter than that. They almost got ran over because they chained themselves together and they refused to let them bulldoze their tent.
well,
And
that's
they
already-
lost everything.
Well, there's still old news stories people can look up about that.
Yeah, look up Rochester as Sister Margaret.
Rochester, New York, not Rochester, Minnesota, not Rochester, Michigan, or anything like that. This was Rochester, New York, we're referring to.
From
Make sure
October-
that's clear.
2013 to December. And it
Well,
had
I think
Sister
that happened
Margaret
like
in it.
2014, 2015 time frame. And then there was also, but what I wanted to get into was they turned around and the city, it was either Monroe County or, the infamous Sandra Dooley, whatever her name is,
Twilight.
the county exec or prosecutor, and whatnot, and the corrupt ex executives that were arrested around the same time frame. Corruption. Anyways, they did a contract. I forget for how much, but it was a few million, if not into the billions, just for a study on how to fix the homelessness. Not actually to do anything to fix them. Basically, for a bunch of people with fancy degrees to come in and say, to sit there at a desk for a 2-year program to say, this is how you go about fixing your homeless problem. Well, one, paying a bunch of pencil pushers is not how you fix homelessness. Or even come close to fixing homelessness. In any jurisdiction. And this company was known to have gone around to a few different large cities and done this garbage too. I think they started off in California before making their way to New York. And we're talking again between 2013 and 2016 when this went on. And one of the many reasons why I became a minister. Some of the reasons were, we couldn't find a minister willing to, because we weren't part of their congregation to perform our marriage for us. Even though I still haven't to this day performed a single wedding, but overseen, officiated at any weddings or funerals. Although, been willing to for some close friends, but that's not how things worked out. They rest in peace until this second coming. Anyways, but there's so much, I know where people are coming from, even some famous people, when they say there's shelters for people to go to. Well, that's part of the reason why we're putting this video out here. And you may have to go back and rewind if you came in late to hear what our stories are and our experiences are with the shelters, not including if you have a pet, if you have a service animal. For example, like I said, Grants Pass, Oregon used to. It's been long enough now that I'm sure that Samson has long passed, who was a black Newfoundland. Lovable unless you were wearing a hat inside the building. That was the one rule, and he made sure everybody stuck to it. I will reiterate that. And if there's anybody at that commission, and they find out that I've called them out, mentioned them out on this, they may not remember me, especially the way I look nowadays. Other than when I mentioned I was on crutches and in a cast, they might remember me at that point. I met my first wife, who was 6 months pregnant with who I call my son, while staying there, and was homeless in a car, slept in the local park, eventually moved to national campground land. Okay, at the time, just because of the problems that they do tend to have. Because I know the main part that they mentioned in the lawsuit, or the one they're referencing, is also the one where they have the hydroboat, hydrojet, the road races, and also where they've had the problems in the past of carnies coming in, carnies that have abused teenage females and sold drugs, stuff like that. So their problem isn't just the homeless people that cause the problems there. It's who they contract with and otherwise. And then it doesn't help that places like Walmart have gone to you can't even park your RV, overnight an RV in their parking lots anymore. And that's pretty much become a nationwide thing.
Yeah, because there was a story about.
Well, there's a few stories out there, but one of them that caught a lot of people's ire and eyes and ire was where someone basically hashtag van lifing it, cooked on a cooktop, and put it away still hot, and ended up catching fire. And a woman who was in a car in the parking lot, or in a minivan in the parking lot, ran inside, left her two daughters in the vehicle. The person that was in the van life RV set up with his hot equipment ended up pulling up next to them to run into the store as well, and his hot equipment caught other stuff on fire. Basically, a lack of fire safety knowledge.
Basically, both parties were at fault because the mother left her two children in the van unattended, and he left
the
hot
personal
plate
in the minivan unattended, and the van life RV or whatever
And unfortunately,
made mistakes as well. There's mistakes on both sides of that.
And unfortunately, the babies suffer the consequences. One baby died, and the second baby was the second baby is still alive, but she has post-traumatic stress disorder and basically is scarred and disfigured for the rest of her life.
All of that story.
And because of that, Walmart has made a policy: there is no overnight camping whatsoever. But actually, it's not even Walmart's fault. It was both parties were at fault, but that's not here nor there.
But yeah, in order to try and avoid liability, they've gone one way. But then again, there's many things that Walmart is doing nowadays that I know because my first real tax, IRS taxable job was as a stock person for Walmart in the 90s, early 90s, and that was when Sam Walton was still alive.
Well,
they
there
had
are
T-shirts back then that said "Made in America," and they were so proud. Everything in the store was made in America. Dickies pants and all that's made in America. Until the first thing that wasn't made in America was the Sony Discman.
There are
and the RCA Walkmans, which were not the Sony Walkmans. They had the RCA version, cassette players, because they were made in America.
There are other places you could park, such as like the Golden Corral.
No, not Golden Corral. Not Golden Corral. It's Cracker Barrel.
Yeah, excuse me, Cracker Barrel.
Some truck stops. A lot of truck stops has actually started doing RV parking spaces. Actually, like pulling into, like backing into a camp space.
Yeah.
The problem is that some people like the setups like what we do or tend to do, or we have to do, if we're doing something like that, we have to be pulled through because we can't back it up. We can't back up a car on a tow dolly. It don't work so well. I mean, if you're flat towing a car, you can back it up. If you're on a tow dolly, it don't work. It don't work.
No. But there are like other places you can park for free, such as Cracker Barrel, the truck stops, rest stops, things like that.
There's websites for that.
But unfortunately, in the state of where we are right now in Austin, they've tried to do that whole ban on camping in public. And homeless encampments and things of that nature. They've tried to do that here.
And they had some laws on the books that when they last year when they went to go force a lot of people out of camp spots, including where we were parked temporarily at the time, the way they went about it violated their own laws on how they do it, how they're supposed to do it. But that's a story for another day. We're not going into that too much. But it's more. This is more about, yes, homelessness is an epidemic. Rent is way too high. We've got too many illegal aliens crossing the border who are getting these exorbitant rents paid for them by the government.
Right.
Our government's sending money overseas to Ukraine. Now, I don't mind them sending to Israel. I'm a Christian. Jesus was a Jew. Jesus was, I'm Judeo-Christian. Judeo-Christian. Jesus was born in Bethlehem and raised in Nazareth in Judea, also known as Israel. I'm going to say that. I'm going to say that loud and proud. And, I don't care if the FBI comes knocking on my door and takes me out. Okay? I will never deny my faith in Christ. Never. And hopefully if you saw Rumble, the little opening video thing, you would have seen a sign that helped show that little digital sign that I've created. Anyways, that is our biggest thing about homelessness and whatnot. We've been going for a little over an hour now.
What does the chat say?
Yeah, nobody. I still got some people left. 2 on YouTube, which is probably Chris and Smooth Keys. It says 7 on Rumble. So please, now you can more than I'll open it up to anybody wanting to ask a question, raise a comment. Not too often you're going to see my wife on the stream with me.
No, this is the last time.
This was a subject, though, that I know she's obviously very passionate about. I'm obviously very passionate about. And so, even though it's taken me a couple weeks to find the right time to put this together, because there's been so much other stuff going on. I wanted to have a time where my wife was more relaxed, ready to have this conversation. And so was I, well, I've been ready for the conversation, but I wanted to bring her in on it too, because, I can say all I want to about the men's shelters and the family shelters we've shared, but she's been on the women's only and DV shelter side of things.
Yeah, I've unfortunately.
And plus, my experiences are not hers, and I want people to know that it's not just women or men that are homeless. There's women too, and it's not just about drugs and alcohol.
As a
or
woman,
even mental health. Sometimes it's just they're not getting paid enough.
As a woman and being homeless, a lot of times it's not your fault. The VA really screws you over. I'm a vet. I'm a woman. I've been homeless. And 9 out of 10 times it's either a man or the VA or the system that has left me homeless.
Well, you have a good night, Chris. Before you leave, can you drop mine and your Discord links into the chats before you run off to dream of little kittens?
Oh, that cat was so cute. I want it. The little black and white kid you caught, the little runaway. But thanks for joining, Chris. Have a good night, buddy.
Anybody else still in the stream? Want to talk, ask about things? I saw you saying it on Rumble, now I see you saying it on YouTube. Or at least one of the YouTube channels. I don't know if the other one connected as well, very well or not. Doesn't matter if it did. Nobody subscribed to it anyways but me. Yeah, if anybody else is in there and want to say hello, let us know you're there. We have Chris dropping hopefully two Discord links. One for my Discord server, which is the Servant Spirit Ministries and Christian Cowboy Journals podcast, a little veteran section, and then Chris's, chatting with Sasquatch Discord server, and Christian Cowboy's Discord, which is it's a lot more people in there, veterans and non-veterans, and a lot of good conversation. Thank you, Chris. You have a good night. Anyone else here? No, stick around. Like I say, you're not gonna get my wife on here very often. She does not do lives. If you want to say hi to her, want to ask her any questions, please. This is probably going to be one opportunity at all for probably at least 6 months to a year. Most of my lives I do myself, and even a lot of my podcast stuff has been by myself, and usually when she's asleep or off doing other things. Have to be shy. I know this is going out on Rumble, YouTube, hopefully 2 places on YouTube. I'm not sure. Hopefully on Facebook, hopefully on X, although it's not showing connected on X. AKA Twitter. It says okay, the live view account not available. So if there's anybody on Twitter, it's not going to tell me. Everybody wants to go to bed. It's only 10:22 p.m. Central Time, Texas. If you want me to expand on some of the things you were talking about, I'm gladly will. I know we've gone deep into some stories, experiences.
Oh no, I probably scared them away. I look like a witch.
You're not that bad, sweetie.
I look like a witch. That's alright.
Not too many people follow or subscribe to me to begin with, so many of them are probably, and some of them are in the 1A community, they're probably out creating their own content. Going to see what tyrants they can locate tonight. All on a Saturday night.
Oh, please stop harassing the cops.
Only the ones that deserve it.
I mean, y'all are doing a good job, but come on. Seriously?
No, I just watch too many videos. You get fed up. That's all.
Yeah, a little.
It's because I don't have much time I don't have the ability to do a whole lot else. So.
I really don't like the videos where they shoot and torture dogs. Come on now. Seriously? Don't you got better things to do, people? Serve and protect. I have my own issues with the cops. You notice they don't have that other door anymore. You realize that,
Who doesn't have one on whose door?
The cops no longer have that other door to serve and protect.
Oh, that's been off their cars for over a decade. Ever since the Supreme Court ruled that they don't have to worry about us civilians.
Yeah, it's just easier to shoot veterans.
That's one thing some people have been getting a little wrong. Is that since they don't have to serve and protect the citizenry, many locales have removed it from their vehicles.
Yeah, they find it easier to
harass.
Let's see, harass, torture.
Harass, torture, collect.
Yeah.
Road pirates.
They find it easier to harass, torture.
But anyway, that's a lot of where we've been going.
And then sit there and blame it on computer error after shooting and torturing a dog or shooting a veteran who has PTSD or a woman who is a domestic violence survivor and having a cop scream at her. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. They're not paid to think. They're not paid to think. But Come on. Anybody still there? I know it says there's still allegedly 6 in Rumble.
No, we're just
It's
talking
plugged.
to ourselves.
Yeah.
And Mr. Softkey.
Oh no, Softkey left YouTube. Chris left YouTube. Softkey left YouTube. Or that's my understanding is nobody's left there.
Oh. That's alright. I guess we scare people.
I guess so.
Either that or our conversations are so boring.
We do live full time in an RV. It's not the best RV. Heck, half the stuff in this RV doesn't even work right. Okay. Oh, okay. One person is still on YouTube, so it might be. That's the problem with YouTube is if you don't type it goes inaccurate. It's screwy.
Well,
there are ways to keep the numbers
is it
down.
smooth key or soft?
iPad, whatever it is. Smooth keys.
Smooth. That's a nice name. If he does play piano, I would love to hear him play sometime.
Yeah. I'll show you this channel.
Because my aunt's funny, the one I was talking about, he was a piano player. That was his thing. He loved playing piano. And he loved playing Beatles. This guy, my savior at one point.
We're up to an hour and 24 minutes. Nobody else. Come on, anybody?
Come on, ask me a
Oh,
question.
you're there.
You're not gonna offend me. You're a troll.
Hi, up yours, down yours, around the bend.
You're ugly. Go screw yourself. Have a nice day. I
Phone
don't
call
care.
for Ben. Bend over. Come on.
Mr. Steak. Mr. Steak.
Let's have a little fun. I mean, we got the main part of the discussion that I wanted, or what I really wanted to point out. It took us over an hour to really cover the topic. And anything else to tell you? Yeah.
Or we can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
What was the one topic that just really was in my crawl that we had to talk?
You want to talk about pianos? We can talk about pianos.
Yeah.
You want to talk about guitars?
Let's talk about musical instruments I cannot play.
Hey, don't feel bad. I can't hear the music anyways. I'm tone deaf. No thanks to whoever. You stay there, Fisher. Yes, I am talking to my penguin. I told you I have mental health problems. I am crazy.
Uh-huh.
See, I can't even have friends outside, so don't feel bad.
Don't forget to, even though I should have said this a lot earlier, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe. I have subscribe too. Like, follow, thumbs up.
Thumbs down, heart, smiley face, double
Throw a
horns.
rant in there, go ahead. But of course, I'm pretty visible either way. Let's try something. Oh, it did. I just can't hear it out my end.
I didn't hear a thing.
No, you wouldn't. I had the dueling bandos.
Okay.
Looks like we dived off deep in. All right, well, I guess we'll shut it down. Thank you for stopping by, hearing us talk about homelessness why many homeless won't go into the shelters, why it's not even, the shelters aren't even usually a good thing, besides limited space, when they have space.
Yeah, fortunately, a lot
Because
of
of all the
times.
predators and other people that are brought in and that they don't, that are paid to stay, allowed to stay there, they get money from them. And yeah, there's people that are a little more self-respecting than that. They don't want to be around them, or they will end up in prison.
And unfortunately, a lot of times, um, they don't want to go in because they have mental health problems. They don't want them there because they have mental health problems. Or they're a couple and not married, but they're a couple and they want to split them up. And even in the Bible, it said, "What God has put together, let no man
put
separate."
asunder.
Yep.
Separate.
And
There's also some other
a lot
scriptures
of
to the homeless side of it, but
and a lot of other times there's vets or just non-veterans who have animals that find a companion in them. I knew this guy for years. He had a dog, ugly little thing, but he was cute as hell. He was one of those dogs that were so ugly he was cute, but he wouldn't go anywhere without that dog. And that was his companion. That was his little buddy. That's what keeps him sane out there. And I feel bad for him. I hurt for him.
and the system insists that you separate. And
Yeah. The system always tries to take either your spouse or your
welfare demands
kids.
that you turn paperwork in 10 days from your medical provider or whoever. But yet the VA has at least 14 days to start with.
Oh, and don't forget that whole
14
you
days
have to
round one, another
decide.
14 days to round two if they didn't get it done in the first 14.
Yeah, don't forget you gotta sign that release form stuff.
Yeah.
You feel like you joined the service again. Sign at the dotted line. Sign this paper, this paper. What the?
So there's a lot that's wrong with the system.
Oh, and don't forget
But
the VA
everybody-
can't even
but-
keep
but-
the records
Thanks for
right.
stopping by. It's all a work in progress as we go. So feedback is more than welcome. Leave a comment. Let us know how your viewing experience was. If something needs to tweak, let me know. I'll try to do better next time.
But you won't see my smiling face. I'm glad, you'll be glad not to see me. Sorry.
All right.
Y'all have a
blessed
good night.
one. Usually I'll catch a lot of people back in their chats later on. All right. Bye.